lots of skilled people emigrating. All sorts of challenges like this, and we are the government. And I'm saying over these years, we haven't communicated a leadership that indeed we can reverse all of this. So I'm saying that one of the concerns, therefore, would be, will this conference come up with policies and leadership that can change that? Yeah. The state of the state-owned enterprises, important players in that process of that economic recovery. If you look at Transnet, just now, Transnet with that strike. If people hadn't understood the strategic place of Transnet in terms of the economy, I think they do now. But I think Transnet is not in a very healthy state. I'm saying these are the sorts of questions. Will this conference that's coming in December help us to answer those questions? What do we do? The question of corruption that Billy mentioned. I was told one of the ministers, I'm not going to say his name or her name, who was in charge of, in that COGTA ministry, they once said at an NEC meeting that if all of the resources, the money is voted for local government, if they actually went to local government to do what they were supposed to do, you would not have these demonstrations about service delivery. And he said that part of the problem is that a lot of those monies end up in the pockets of ANC leaders. And he went on to say, and I'm talking about people who are present in this meeting of the NEC, some of them. I'm saying that corruption is a very direct problem relating to this matter I'm raising, for instance, about the economy. I think it's justified for people to ask the question, will this conference in December come out with policies and programs and a leadership that will actually deal with this problem? I don't want to embarrass Billy Ramaphosa by asking him to answer the question, is he confident that this conference will produce those results? We've just had a policy conference. Which I'm certain has agreed on many good policies. But in the end, it's the practical outcome, or the practical outcomes that will come out of those policy decisions that will count. We've been discussing, we've been raising these questions now, discussions, including in the NEC, that in October 2020, President Ramaphosa convened, asked an important program, which was the South African Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Program, which is called the ERRP. Contains all the major elements of what need to be done about this economy, whether it's infrastructure or training of skilled people and so on. That was in October 2020. in July the same year, 2020, the business people, as one of the components, the social partners in the NADLEC process, had produced its own economic recovery program. They called it a strategy. It's an economic strategy, and government presented a reconstruction and recovery plan. I'm sure, comrades, you've had a look at both of those documents. You can get them off the internet, and of course, the president, the speech, you can get it off the website of the presidency. So at one of those meetings of the NEC, I say, I've got the speech of the president on the ERRP, and I've downloaded from the media, from the internet, this thing that was presented by government. And I've looked at them. One of them, the ERRP, is 32 pages. The business strategy is 132 pages. So I say, you see, just looking at the length, it seems to me business have done more work on this thing than government has. And in reality, when I look at this business thing, it is supplying the detail of what needs to be done in order to realize what is in the ERRP. And the ERRP is a vision. This is where we want to get to. We got to infrastructure, everything. Very correct. Nothing wrong with the ERRP. But needs a plan to realize that vision. And so we say, but why don't we look at this business strategy? It's very detailed. We are social partners and work on that to produce a plan. We call the ERRP a plan. It's not a plan. Never mind how many times we call it a plan. It doesn't make it a plan. It's not a plan. It's a vision. It's a perspective. Where do we want? It's a dream. Correct one. But you need to say, what are the practical steps to get there? I remember at the end of that discussion, Comrade Phoebe is here. She would remember this. At the end of the discussion, Comrade President Ramaphosa, he says, Comrade Thabo is correct. Business has submitted their own economic strategy to government. It's because it was a discussion document for the social partners. And he says, but what's wrong, where he was wrong, me, the document is not 132 pages, it's 1,000 pages. Emphasize exactly the point, that there's been very detailed planning to realize these objectives that are in the ERRP. Why are we not then taking this business thing, discuss it as social partners, amend it, change it, whatever, and then we have a socio-economic plan? Doesn't happen. Hasn't happened. I know of ministers, national ministers in our cabinet, who in the last 2 months say they have never seen this business strategy. It was submitted to government in July 2020. In August 2022, minister says, I've never heard of it. What is that? I'm saying policy shortfalls. Look at matter of safety and security. the police service were missing in action in July last year, when you had that terrible mayhem. There was this unofficial strike earlier this year at ESCOM. And all sorts of reports about what was happening there. Even roadblocks being set up so that workers don't come to work, all of that. So I posed a question. I said, this is worrying. And this is a national key point, ESCOM. You have things going wrong. This strike, it was an illegal strike. But I'm talking about the things that were then done, which clearly are illegal. Out there in the open. Somebody comes and says to the workers, no, never mind, we're not on strike officially, but you're not allowed to go to work, so they block the roads. National key point. So I say, where were the police? We are now no longer talking about the July 2021, where a lot of trouble in KZN and in this province. This is restricted. All these power stations are fenced and all of that. Where were the police on a small matter like this? I'm talking about this ESCOM. I haven't had an answer yet to that question. Because it communicates a message that there is something radically wrong with the police service. There must be. I'm reading a book. It's called, I'll remember the title, but it's a thick book. It deals with organized crime in the country. And a big part of it is about this Czech criminal, whatever his name is, Krejci or something. That's right. And all of those sorts of people, these criminal networks. What is frightening in that book are the number of senior police officers who are in the pockets of these criminals. And the author fortunately mentions them by name. So-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. I'm saying, I'm quite sure that out of the policy conference, we came out with a safety and security policy. It'll become something real in its outcomes. When we no longer have this problem of saying, where were the police? And why are so many of them, according to that book, in the hands, in the pockets of criminals? Long time ago, the police, it must be early 2000s, they closed down, shut down there was an anti-narcotics unit in the police fighting drugs. They closed it down. And one of the reasons was, one of the senior officers in that unit, at that point he was operating out of Cape Town, owned a block of flats. Police officer. The whole block of flats he owns and he rents, and 2 big houses in Cape Town. It's clear. This money, these things are bought with drug money. And I'm saying a senior person appointed to fight the drug trade was benefiting. So they decided in the senior police command that we don't know how many of the people in that unit, that division, have in fact not been corrupted. That's why they closed it down. But I'm saying that, sure, we'll have policy, but will it address these things, which are practical, which are the things, if you address them, you are then addressing the safety and security of the population. You would say it happening. So now you know that these policies are correct.